Welcome to our Communiversity Today, a community affairs program from West Virginia University Institute of Technology in Beckley, hosted by Dr. T. Ramon Stuart, president of West Virginia University Institute of Technology, working to make a difference in Southern West Virginia. Guest opinions expressed on this program may not represent the opinions of West Virginia University Institute of Technology or Southern Communications. And now with today's program, here's Dr. Stewart.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you to our Communiversity today. I'm Dr. Ramon Stuart, president of WVU Tech here in Beckley, and I'm thankful that you chose to be with us today as we explore our Communiversity. I think it's so important, as I say every Sunday, that we do this exploration because it is imperative that we go through and try to answer two both timely and relevant questions. And that's simply, why not us and why not now? And when you think about that, you think about where Southern West Virginia has been, you think about where Southern West Virginia is, but most importantly, we have to think about where Southern West Virginia can go. And so as I explore that and think through those particular topics, I look for various guests around Southern West Virginia that not only represent the past, we represent the present, but also can give us some insight on the future. And so today, as we explore our Communiversity, I have with me a special gentleman known to many in Southern West Virginia as the Chicken Man, none other than Richard Jarrell, who just now retired as the owner-operator of Beckley's Chick-fil-A's. And so today we're going to join Richard to talk about his trajectory, not only with Chick-fil-A, but the contributions that he made to Southern West Virginia, and also hear a little bit about what Richard wants to do in his retirement. So ladies and gentlemen, I ask you to tune in with me. Right after this break, we'll be back with more of our Communiversity Today on News Talk WWNR.
Need a change and ready to transfer? WVU Tech offers the best return on your college investment in West Virginia, and we make it easy to apply and transfer your existing credits. We've got top-ranked, affordable engineering programs, 4-year degrees in science, business, and nursing, plus financial aid and student support services. WVU Tech could be just the place for you. Find out more information at wvutech.edu/admissions today.
Now back to the program.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to our Communiversity today. Again, we have visiting with us the Chicken Man, Southern West Virginia's own former owner-operator of the Chick-fil-A's here in Beckley, West Virginia, Richard Jarrell. So, Richard, congratulations up front on your retirement on May 1st. How does it feel?
Well, I'm a week in. It's been 1 week since I retired, and when we're doing this airing, and it's really kind of weird. I've slept in a couple days already, started the honey-do list, and trying to do some things like that, but it's a little different.
Well, I can tell it's different because as we sit here and have our conversation, I see you have a Chick-fil-A cup in your hand, so it's hard to pry it out of your hands.
Still got to support the brand.
Excellent, excellent. And you talk about the brand, having spent almost 7 years living in Georgia, and at my previous institution, the original Chick-fil-A down in Hateville was very close to it, about 4 or 5 miles. And so I would see Dan, Kathy, and the Kathy family. And so tell me, given your experience with Chick-fil-A and the Kathy family, how they really helped shape and mold how you were an owner-operator here in Beckley.
Well, Mr. Kathy, Truett Kathy, was the founder, and he was the brainchild of this great opportunity that we have. He knew that there were a lot of entrepreneurial type people out there across the nation who had the ability to run restaurants and run businesses, organizations, but just didn't have the capital. And he had the brainchild to create the deal that we had, which was very affordable way for us to get into business, a simple, at the time, $5,000 deposit, and you were in business. He bought the land or rented the land, paid for the building, the equipment, and then you leased it on an ongoing basis. So it enabled us to go into business for ourselves, but not by ourselves, is the way he liked to say it. And we worked in partnership with them during all those years. And then several years ago, we were able to become LLCs and things like that. So, but it was Mr. Truett Cathy's brainchild that really created the opportunities that are out there today.
So I think that's so special, Richard, because obviously you're a native of Beckley, but you and your lovely wife, Beth, had moved on to Virginia, and you had started with Chick-fil-A there. And you talk about that $5,000 investment, but oftentimes $5,000 could be $4,999.99 more than what someone has. And so, you know, with your humble beginnings here in Beckley, thinking about how you grew up, you oftentimes talk about your father and the impact that he had. How did your father and the life he lived prepare you for the moment to get your $5,000?
Well, my mom and dad were working people. My dad was a coal miner. He worked for Armco Steel down at Route 3 at Montcalm. And my mother worked for a manufacturing plant out, which is it's the Grand Home Furniture site now, but there was a plant out there back in the days that she worked at. And then in 1969, when I was 7 years old, my father was in a slate fall accident. Rooftop fell on top of him, severed his spinal cord, and he became a paraplegic, never walked again. So that formed who I was at that time. And if I was a kid who was growing up on Social Security and compensation and things like that, so we didn't have much. So with that, if I wanted things, I had to go out and scratch for it. So I was the kid that was knocking on people's doors when the first snowflake fell. Hey, can I shovel your driveway? Can I mow your grass in the summer? Had my first newspaper route when I was 11 years old, that kind of thing. I started working at a real job for EM Paint Company when I was 15 years old. And I've just always worked. Dr. Stewart, I sit here today retired, and I look back, and I have worked since I was 15 years old. I've never had a day that I didn't have a job. So it's a kind of a new normal for me. But if I wanted things back in the day, I had to scratch it out.
And I think that's so important because obviously many people know where you are now. But that trajectory and that thought of where you've been is so critical. And I think that's very important here in Southern West Virginia because I oftentimes say we do not need a handout, we need a hand up. And with that, it sounds like you've taken those hand up and really prospered. So what's been your motivation? You know, obviously your dad laid the foundation for that grit and resiliency and hard work. But what has been your motivation that kept you almost 20 years, 2 decades, owning and operating Chick-fil-A's in Beckley?
Right. Well, I did Chick-fil-A for 25 years. As you mentioned, I started my first 6.5 years up in Northern Virginia in Fairfax County, where it was the land of milk and honey and everything was just growing and it was the fastest growing place in America. But then I heard about this opportunity to come back home to Beckley. I heard that they were looking to open a Chick-fil-A freestanding store out on Eisenhower Drive. And with that, I jumped after it.
So you believed?
I believed.
You believed.
I saw the plan. I said it was there. And I really believed it could be something. A lot of people didn't. They told me I was stupid, I was crazy, that I wouldn't make it. And because it really didn't match the Chick-fil-A demographics. But I really believed it could happen. So we pulled up everything that we had in Northern Virginia, and we moved back home in 2006 when we opened on Eisenhower Drive. Little did we know what it would become today. And it was just, for me, it was my opportunity to come back home and give back. And when I say give back, I mean, there's a lot of ways that we hear everybody say, I want to give back. For me, I go back to that first job that I ever had with EM Paint Company. I worked for a gentleman by the name of Bob Wilson. And Bob Wilson gave this snot-nosed 15-year-old kid a job. I didn't deserve it, but I needed it. And he gave me a chance, and he kept me on after Christmas because I was really supposed to be Christmas help, but he kept me. And when he kept me, little did Bob Wilson know that I would have a 20-year career in the retail business.
Absolutely.
He didn't know, but he gave me a chance. And I wanted to be the next generation's Bob Wilson in Beckley.
And so I think that's very fitting. You know, you talk about giving people a chance. And one of the things that caught my eye about the work you did as an owner operator, especially as a college president, is the amount of money that you would invest in young people in their future to go to college. And not only the amount of money you would invest, but I can remember going through the drive-through on Eisenhower Drive, and the name of each one of those Chick-fil-A scholars was up there. Is that in honor of Bob? Why'd you do that?
Well, that's real. That program was really through Chick-fil-A. The Chick-fil-A program is called Remarkable Futures, and we have the ability to award up to $2,500 of scholarships to individuals, and it's determined by a third party. It's not determined by me, but I thoroughly engaged in trying to get all these students to buy into that. And we did that. But we had several students come through the doors of Tech who were able to work, earn a scholarship, and graduate debt-free. Debt-free. That burden had been lifted off of them for the future. But they were able to do that in partnership with us. In the years that I was with Chick-fil-A, just here from the time when we were in Beckley on, we gave over $360,000 worth of scholarships away, plus tuition assistance, because I paid them to have grades. If they were working and had good grades, they got extra. So,
yeah, you know, and you mentioned the role that scholarship played at WVU Tech, and I remember when I first got here, one of your key management people actually started at WVU Tech, wanting to go to medical school. And he went in the business track, and he was working at Chick-fil-A as a team member. And then he saw the business elements and aspects. And as he progressed through college, he also progressed through Chick-fil-A. But I tell you, I got a real special story that I appreciate. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, I always do this program, President for the Day, and I'd encourage you, any young people that you would like to do the program to see what they can be, please sign up on our website. But one day, Richard, I remember when you called me, you said, I got a young person that's thinking about studying engineering at another school, but I would love for that person to be President for the Day. And so long story short, we got him over and we rolled out the gold and blue carpet. And I'm proud to say that gentleman, because of you, because of the generosity of Chick-fil-A, because of the investment that you've made into young people right here in Southern West Virginia, they're an active engineering student at Tech. And so I want to thank you for that. But I want to get back into some other conversations, but I need to take a quick break. And so I ask that you stick with me where we have Richard Jarrell in studio on our Communiversity today here on News Talk WWNR.
WVU Tech's Regents Bachelor of Arts degree is crafted for adult learners like you. Flexible, affordable, and tailored to your goals. You can even earn credit for work and life experience, giving you a jump on completing your degree. Whether you're finishing a degree you started or shifting to a new career, WVU Tech provides the resources and support you need to make it a reality. Take the next step at wvutech.edu/admissions today.
With more Communiversity today, here's Dr. Stewart.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our Communiversity today. Again, we are visiting with Chicken Man Richard Jarrell, the former owner-operator of the Chick-fil-A's in Beckley, West Virginia. Now, Richard, we've talked extensively about your contributions, and we are appreciative of the things you've done to help young people get college degrees, especially right here in town at WVU Tech. But you've been more to this community than just college and different things. And I always talk about Communiversity, and I talk about the community as the university, and university as the community. Well, the reality is you were the Communiversity before I ever got to Beckley, West Virginia. So how did you get that servant heart?
Well, I got the servant heart because I had great mentors early in life. I had mentors like my next door neighbor, who was Murray Shuff, who owned a business in town. He owned a company that did building supplies back in the day. He and his wife, and he helped support me and I watched what he did in the community with the Chamber of Commerce and things like that. I had mentors like Betty Wilkes and Joanne Wilkes, who were my teachers, and I watched what they did. So I watched it. I saw it in action. I watched people like Alex George, who owned George's, and what he did in the community. And it was inspirations like that that helped take me on to, let's start when I was in Northern Virginia, because that 20-year period that I was with another company, it was a publicly held company, and they didn't have that vision of community, but Chick-fil-A did. And that's why I was a great fit for them. So when I was in Northern Virginia, I had signs made that said, it's Chick-fil-A, it's all about community. I'm a firm believer that if we help the community will help us. It's a partnership. And when we do something for some group or organization, people see that and they go, that Chick-fil-A, they're doing something all the time.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure that they're successful.
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
And I think that success is so important. I always say all ships rise with the tide. And with those contributions that you've had, and you've done a lot. I know recently we had a Virginia symposium at Tech, and we had individuals, engineering students from 13 different institutions from the two Virginias, more than 350 engineers, and nobody in Southern West Virginia could feed them breakfast at Lake Stevens at 7 a.m. except Chick-fil-A. And you actually went in and opened the restaurant up early so that our guests could come to town and have a great meal. And so what with that kind of service in mind and that type of motivation and what impact do you think it had on this area?
Well, the thing it does, first of all, it's what it shows to my team. It shows my team that WVU is important to us. It's important to this community. It's important, to just all of us. So it tells them that we have to do things at a higher level and do things differently. It's easy to say, I'm sorry, we can't do that. That's too early in the morning. But they get excited about it. They really do. And then when we show up at Lake Stevens and WVU Tech is putting on this event, and we have students, I saw them from all over the place, Virginia Tech and other places, and they see that Chick-fil-A is there and Tech got us there. It raises their opinions of Tech. They go, man, Chick-fil-A, and they said this, man, Chick-fil-A's here? Man, this is great.
And I think, at one point, Beckley had more Chick-fil-A's than Charleston or anything. And I think one of the things when you look at the crossroads, 64 and 19 and everything, what happens is Chick-fil-A raised that profile of Beckley. How does that really make you feel?
It's really makes you, just feel like that you're special. We are special. We're different. I do. Well, I say I do. I did when I would do orientations. I would give every participant a $2 bill, and I'd ask them, "Do you have a $2 bill in your pocket right now?" And they'd say, "No." "Have you had one this week?" "No." "This month?" "No." "Well, then, this $2 bill, would you say it's different?" "Yes, it's different. It's different. It's unique. It's special, and it's just like Chick-fil-A. That $2 bill is real. You can go out and spend it. You can save it. You can do whatever you want to with it. And Chick-fil-A is just the same way. We're real and we're special, but we're different.
And that difference obviously sets you apart. That difference inspires you to do different things. And one of the things I noted about you is your staunch support and advocacy of athletics. And so how do you go from the chicken man to really, really, really being a staunch supporter of athletics?
Well, first of all, I love athletics. I had a daughter, and she was an athlete. She played a lot of different sports. Her real sport was volleyball. But from the first day I got on property in Beckley, I was going back to my school, which was Woodrow, and I found out who's the athletic director. What can we do to be involved? how can we support you? And then when Mountain State was here, we were sponsors and partners with them, because I just believe that athletics is one of those places where people in the community want to go, get away from the things that are going on in life and go and enjoy an event. And if we can go and be there and make it even a more fun event, it's even better. We were able to encourage the Chick-fil-A's across the state to partner with the WVSSAC and be a title sponsor for the state girls and boys basketball championships. And everyone would come to us and say, man, you guys have raised the level of this event to where it's fun. And we just believe that sports is just a great avenue to do that.
But at the same rate, you've never lost sight of contributing to education, because if I recall correctly, they did a little something special for you during your final tournament. Tell me more about that.
Well, they sure did. I'm not trying to break my arm as I was patting myself on the back, but I was kind of the brainchild that put that together, that whole partnership, and I would work it for 2 weeks solid every year. And because they knew how I felt about it and how strong I felt about it, and that with my retirement, they came alongside and created a scholarship in my and Beth's honor, just because they know our heart for leadership.
And I think that heart, that servant's heart, and your lovely wife again, Beth, some people say behind every good man is a great woman, but there could be no good man without an even greater woman. But people have recognized the contributions of you all collectively, and it went even further in terms of scholarships. And so working with the Beckley Area Foundation, I saw where Chick-fil-A even helped endow a scholarship in honor of you and Beth. Tell me how that made you feel.
Well, it made me cry. I was totally surprised. I know what it takes to put together a scholarship. I've helped put together 3 different scholarship foundations, and it takes $10,000 to endow that scholarship to where it can become active. And when they presented us with a fully loaded $10,000 scholarship to where we can just go ahead and start building that even further and start making contributions. But that, as I said to them, this is something that will live forever. And Beth and Richard Jarrell won't live forever, but that scholarship will.
And, that's important, that legacy, that contribution. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the scholarship, the Beth and Richard Jarrell Scholarship, is housed at our partners down at the Beckley Area Foundation. And I'd encourage you all, when you have a moment and even an extra dime or two, to make contributions in honor of the legacy and commitment of Beth and Richard Jarrell. Because what we get to do is we get to make sure that future generations of young people here in Southern West Virginia have the opportunity to grow and develop like Richard and Beth did. And so let's take a break real quick. And after this break, we'll come back with more Our Communiversity Today on News Talk WWNR.
Find out how you can be a part of the Communiversity family, like Pendleton Community Bank, your bank for generations, the City of Beckley, the Beckley-Raleigh County Chamber of Commerce, Cucumber and Company. Visit Southern West Virginia, the Resort at Glade Springs, and this Southern Communications Station. Find out more at southernwvmedia.com.
Need a change and ready to transfer? WVU Tech offers the best return on your college investment in West Virginia, and we make it easy to apply and transfer your existing credits. We've got top-ranked, affordable engineering programs, 4-year degrees in science, business, and nursing, plus financial aid and student support services. WVU Tech could be just the place for you. Find out more information at wvutech.edu/admissions today.
With more Communiversity Today, here's Dr. Stewart.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you back to our Communiversity Today. Again, in studio, we have the Chicken Man, and I think that title as I saw in your new email address. That title will forever be yours, Richard Jarrell. But speaking of email, I often say in my emails, I'm reminding myself and others that to whom much is given, much is expected. And, you have not only met those expectations, but you've exceeded them. How does that feel?
Well, the Bible talks about, well done, thy good, faithful servant. And that's what I want to hear. That's what I was grown up to believe, to be, is to hear well done. And that's what I've strived to do every day that I've been on earth. So what I try to do is help those around me. I don't care if it's Chick-fil-A. I don't care if it's church. I don't care if it's Chamber of Commerce. I've tried to instill in people, if we're going to do it with excellence. Don't just half do it. Let's do it with excellence. Because if you don't do it with excellence, it's not worth doing. So I just want people to lift a little bit higher, a little, just go for it. And the worst boss I ever had taught me one thing, and that is the lowest accepted performance is the new accepted standard. And what that said to me was, once you set that standard and somebody comes in and they don't perform at that highest level, I have to say something to them. Because if I don't, I've negotiated the standard. And I need them to be on standard, because when we do that, we negotiate. And if we negotiate this part of the business, we'll negotiate that part of the business. And then everything's a negotiation. But then you have no standards. So you have to have standards of expectations and excellence in everything that you do.
Yeah, and well done, thy good and faithful servant. You've been faithful with a little. I'll make you ruler over a lot. And so your faithfulness has helped you and your wife, Beth, be a ruler over a lot. And when you look at that service and faithfulness, we are the benefactors of your generosity. I oftentimes talk about this concept, the 3 T's: time, talent, and treasure. And when you think about it, you've given your time, Richard, more than 2 decades of service as an owner-operator of Chick-fil-A, and you could have stayed in the land of milk and honey, but you decided to allow the country roads to bring you back home to the place that you belong. So we thank you for your time, your talent. Again, you've been around the world. You've worked for a variety of companies, but you remember the foundation that was laid for you right here in Beckley, and it was upon that foundation that you built. And treasure. You've talked about the more than $347,000 worth of scholarships. I know the things that you do to make sure that people have a good meal, working with the Salvation Army and other Communiversity partners that we have. But the true treasure is you and the light that you and Beth have been able to illuminate here in Beckley. And so I want to thank you for being on our Communiversity today as a guest, and thank you for sharing your journey. And what I'd ask our guests to do is please visit wwnrradio.com for additional information about Richard Jarrell, the legendary owner-operator of the Chick-fil-A's in Beckley, West Virginia, and how you can work like Richard worked to build our Communiversity today. Thank you.
You've been listening to Our Communiversity Today, a production of West Virginia University Institute of Technology and Communiversity partner, Southern Communications in Beckley. This program and contact information is available on our website and our mobile app at wwnrradio.com. Join us next week for Our Communiversity Today.